Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our annual review meeting. For me, the highlight yesterday was the panel discussion where we brought in all the big heads, the eggheads together. And it's not easy to bring such people closer and put them on one table. So that was my highlight yesterday, and all the insights from the keynote speaker's presentation. And it was quite revealing to me. That was my point, my high point. So I want to go around a bit and find out some people's, what stood out for them yesterday. We'll do that in the next 3 minutes. Dr. Kokoro, what stood out for you yesterday?
Diversity for increased production.
Diversity for increased production. Thank you very much. Dr. Madi.
I think the request by the ES that a dormitory for our visitors be constructed here by the Abia State government, that stood out for me.
I think I agree with you. Dr. Judo Bidiegu, where is your chieftaincy cap?
Thank you so much. For me, yesterday, the spirit of collaboration, the power in collaboration and interaction stood out for me. Thank you.
Dr. Mbanaso, your director outreach, what was the high point for you?
Anyway, we have prospects of open doors, prospects for areas of investment, collaboration, and through that also there will be things available for the farmers.
I know that will interest you a lot. We have Director Liaison. As a liaison director, what was the high point that will improve your activities and your services?
For me, the network and the ability of people who have worked on research and deciding to transform into cassava farmers is even a very high point in it, where we have VCs as cassava seed entrepreneurs coming on to share their experiences.
Thank you so much. I will go to Director Soil. A lot was discussed on the issues surrounding the environment, the soil, and all that. What is your take home? Dr. Chukwu, Lord Chukwu.
My take home is the fact that in these days of climate change and all the associated problems with it, which also has to do with the reactions in the soil that is also has changed a lot, that emphasis are now placed on how to mitigate all this to ensure that our food security and nutrition is enhanced.
Thank you very much. I will move down a bit. Yesterday, Professor Selebe talked a lot on YAM, so much. So I'm going to call the coordinator YAM program. And fortunately, Professor Selebe was one of your supervisors. So what are the things you're taking, or what have you taken from all that she said that is going to improve your work as coordinator YAM program in National Root Crop Research Institute?
Thank you, Ma. I think my take home from her presentation is one, the economic potential of YAM. I think she did mention that YAM, of course, commands more economic value than even our so-flagged cassava crop. That is one. And two is the fact that, of course, it has been established from her presentation that YAM still need more efficient seed system. From what we have, from what she presented, informal seed systems is still prevalent in the yam research system. So we need to improve yam seed system, make it more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Jerry Waga is one of our youngest coordinators. Thank you so much. And I'm going to meet one of our retired directors, a female director. She made some pertinent comments yesterday, and you are now an advisor to us. So what are you going to advise us on, given all that's happened yesterday? Thank you, Ma. Dr. Chinyere Aniedu just retired December last year, so she's still fresh.
Not just is what I have in mind as an agriculturist and what is happening in the world in the field of agriculture. That's what I want to talk about. My own take about the whole thing is that this smallholder agriculture we are doing is not going to lead us anywhere. If you ask me, I will tell you that the white people or the developed world, they are trying to keep us subordinate to them by propagating smallholder agriculture, because in their own area, they are not doing it. They have disbanded that, and they are now into commercial agriculture. If you listen to what the lady from Ebonyi State said yesterday, that too many or too little people feeding the whole world. If you go to Holland, you will see that only 3% of the population are in agriculture. And they are feeding, they produce food in excess and everything is in excess. While here in Nigeria, we have 70% or more of our population in agriculture, and yet we are not able to feed ourselves. And yet each day we are propagating smallholder agriculture. Do this is not helping us. Something radical has to be done in agriculture for us to develop in this land. If not, nothing. We are not going anywhere. We still remain where we are. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you're going to involve yourself into large-scale cassava production now that you're retired, with all the experience and knowledge acquired from National Root Crop Research Institute. Thank you, everyone, and we're going to start in earnest. We're going to have a little change in the program. I understand that DG NBMA will be leaving us very soon, so we're going to do a little adjustment. After the panel discussion on the lead paper yesterday, we're going to take on the projects, yes, some of our projects, and then we'll discuss on that. Thank you very much, and call on Dr. Sam to call up people for this.
Thank you, Ma. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we want to call a strong panel that will be dissecting the lead paper that was presented yesterday. And the moderator for this panel is our own Chinedu Abara. We want us to welcome him, please, from Sahel Consult. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Yes. Yes, we also want to bring on Dr. Onyeka TJ, the Director of Biotechnology, National Root Crop Research Institute, and the PI, Basic Troop Project. Can we put our hands together for Dr. Onyeka? Great. We also want to bring on Dr. Godwin Asmoga, former Acting Executive Director, National Root Crop Research Institute. It's our own. Doc, you're welcome. And then we want to call on the Acting General Manager, Umudike Seed, Mrs. Chika Anyim. She's one of the panelists. Can we put our hands together for Mrs. Chika Anyim? Right away, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand over the microphone to the moderator of this panel session, Chinedu Abra, to kick off.
Okay, thanks and good morning, everybody. Welcome to this panel session. I'll start by introducing myself again. So my name is Abara Chinedu. I work for Sahel Consulting, Agriculture and Nutrition. We're a management consulting firm that works only in agriculture. We work with research institutes like Nrcri, with donors to implement projects. But our basic skills is business side of things. We work mainly on the business side to try to bring in business perspective to the different projects that we are handling. So to start the session, I will start by telling a small story. Just like yesterday, Dr. Kent Nadozie also started with a story. But my story is not about stealing. It's a personal story, so I didn't steal anything. So I'm not going to confess to any crime. So my father is a teacher. My father worked for the government college Owerri, and he used to teach me mathematics. He instilled mathematics discipline into me. But as I progressed in life, I decided to join investments. I started working in banking and finance, investment banking. And one concept I was introduced to was what was called arbitrage. So in arbitrage, is basically a complex theory, but to explain it is very simple. Arbitrage says that if somebody says 1 plus 1 is equals to 3, 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. As a mathematician, I would be like, this is wrong. I know in mathematics, we have things like no solution and challenges like that. But in finance, what they taught us was that if somebody says 1 plus 1 is equal to 3, you have a business there. Don't get angry and start arguing with him. What you do is to say, okay, if I give you 1 naira plus 1 naira, are you going to give me 3 naira? If he says yes, then you start to give him the 1 naira plus 1 naira and collect the 3 naira from him and go back and disentangle it into 1 naira and give him. If you keep doing that and other people keep doing that, he will, at a point, he will understand that there is something that is not, that maybe you're right, you know. So it's basically trying to bring business out of any issue and not trying to force people to correct things. So why is this story relevant to our context now of what we are discussing? EGS, you know, I have to bring it to farmer adoption. A lot of people have listened here to say that there's a lot of technology, a lot of innovation, varieties that have been implemented, that have been developed by the research institutes, but they are not in the hands of the farmers. You know, so they are complaining that there is no solution to this problem. We've tried all our best over the years, many years, but I'm here to say that if we put a business perspective to it, if we understand it from a business point of view and make a business out of it, we'll be able to solve this issue of no solution in terms of adoption. And to discuss that with me further is my great panel list that we have here. But to make it also easier is that a project, just like Prof. Osalebe talked about yesterday, there has been different projects that have been implemented. But the basics project, which we've been implemented, has done something in terms of that business aspect of things. It has unbundled the EGS system, you know. It has divided it and tried to create a business out of it. You know, now research is expected to focus on the development side of varieties. After that, it's expected to hand over to Umudike Seeds, that is represented by Chika here. So Umudike Seeds is supposed to produce the foundation seeds from the breeder seeds. And they will do it as a company, as a business. And they will hand it over to the cassava seed entrepreneurs, which is represented by Dr. Asimugwa, who has experience working with them. And these cassava seed entrepreneurs will multiply the foundation seed into commercial seeds and sell to farmers. So across this chain, there is going to be businesses across it from, from the research focusing purely on researching, developing the right varieties, then handing off, and this is all going to be business and concept. It's not free. They will give it to the Umudike seeds. Umudike seeds multiply, give to the commercial seed entrepreneurs, they multiply and they sell to farmers. We believe that by making businesses out of this chain, that we are going to solve that problem of no adoption. So that's basically a perspective of what we want to share here. So as we're listening, please try to see where the business is for you and try to join in making money out of this system. So thanks for this long introduction. So I'll hand over now to Dr. Joe Onyeka to ask the first question. So based on the presentation by Prof. Osalebe yesterday, how do you see breeding and what are the business opportunities with the relationship that you're working with the Umudike seeds? Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, once again. How do I see breeding? And then what are the opportunities? One of the things we've always heard about breeding is breeders should go for demand-led breeding. And so the question has always been, how do you articulate the demands? And then at times you say you do some diagnostic survey and all the rest, but we know those are the preliminaries. The reality on ground today is that the demand is also rapidly changing. And so in our contextual world today, we look at breeding from the perspective of the feedback you have from what we call the surveys or the surveys. So we've been able to partition the breeding program into the research segment, the survey department, and then the survey, the breeding, and the research. So before you do the breeding, you get the idea of what is the need through the survey, and then you do the research to improve on that and integrate into your breeding. So let me be specific. Today, under the modern breeding project we do, and by the modern breeding project, I talk about the cassava, the next-gen cassava project, as well as the Nrcri breeding project. The survey department work with the farmers through the tricots. And from that, they elicit what are the needs and then convey it back to the breeding team, which now prioritize and integrate that into their breeding program. So we get what people need and what the end users is looking for, and then we integrate that into our breeding screen. And when we finish and come out eventually after several years of effort, then the next thing is how do you now deliver this, your final product, to the end users? And that's where this efficiency system comes in. And in the last 5 years, we have devoted effort in formalizing the cassava seed system. And today in Nigeria, we have a formal cassava seed system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Onyeka. Maybe you want to throw light a bit about tricots? Sorry.
Okay, tricot, actually, we have the mama tricot in the house in person of our director of PME. So tricot, let me explain it in the layman's idea, is where you have a lot of varieties that you want to diffuse, and then you want to work with rural farmers. Most times we focus on women, and then we are saying, if I introduce 10 varieties to a woman, she may be confused because she's having so many options. So we said, okay, I want to work with 10 women, I have 10 varieties. I want to work with 30 women, I have 10 varieties. I just randomize where I have 3. Each person gets maximum of 3. And it means each person could get 3 different combinations. And at the end of the day, you ask them, can you just simply rank these in order of priority? They rank 1 to 3. And then when you put the 30 results together, you will see the one that is consistently coming first. And then you go back to them and ask them why. And some of them will tell you this, and this. And let me tell you, some of the last varieties that were released in Nigeria, this is how we elicited the name. So when you ask them, this one you are preferring, why do you like it? He said, this one is fine face. What do you mean by fine face? When you process it, you like the face of the gari, you like the face of the food product. So that's why we gave that promotional name. But you can see what, they may not be able to quantify this in terms of figures, but they've been able to put it in terms of quality. And this is what we put into consideration. And then we go back and try to put this in figures in a measurable capacity that will enable us to make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nika. So it's basically demand-driven breeding that we need to go to, so that by the time farmers are already part of the process of selection, adoption becomes very easy for this. So I'll move next to Dr. Asmua. So Dr. Asmua, the question is quite simple for you. What role do you see for cassava seed entrepreneurs in terms of, in the context of this business perspective that we are talking about, right? So how can they help improve adoption to farmers?
Good morning, all. Yesterday, the paper by Professor Selebe really emphasized ensuring that the EGS get to the farmers. That was the emphasis. And in doing this, we must create an enabling environment, which is very important. Seed value chain you adopted, and the business model, as well as the production technology. Now, we are talking about the cassava seed entrepreneurs, CSEs. The function of the CSEs, these are the people that have been specifically trained to produce the quality seeds, quality cassava stems, certified seed, and from the breeder seed, it has gone to the foundation seed producer, and finally to the cassava seed entrepreneurs. The role of the CSEs, as I say, production of a quality seed. And we have gone a long way in this aspect. In the Southeast, South, we have put in place cassava seed entrepreneurs. In the 4 states of Abia, Imo, Akwa Ibom, and the Cross River states. Other agencies, other development agencies saw what we are doing. And in fact, they were so excited and decided to key in. These agencies include IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development. In fact, they are training their youth. IFAD Value Chain Development Project. They brought their youths here at Nrcri and they were trained. And IFAD is supporting them. Each youth supposed to plant 1 hectare. And by so doing, create job opportunities for these youths. So, and we have about 96 IFAD youths that are on board, spread across 9 states, both in the north, west, and the southeast. Also, agencies like MADE, Market Development in the Niger Delta, they are being funded by DFID. They also keyed in. And we have another agency, PIN, Partnership Initiative in the Niger Delta. Even GIZ, they all keyed in. And recently, Sasakawa in the north. So we have almost 1,000 CSEs on ground now, spread across. And these CSEs, the cassava seed entrepreneurs, are producing a quality seed, which they now, extend to the other farmers. So in this respect, the effort of both the National Rural Research Institute, IITA, Sahel, and others, I think is doing something. What is before us now is to make sure we integrate permanent actors. Permanent actors, we must bring in the ADPs. We must bring in the LUGAs so that they will also help to propagate this gospel. Of course, we must start thinking about the sustainability. That's the key thing, sustainability. When you are producing a quality seed, you must make sure that you adhere to all the guidelines so that nobody will question the quality of the seed you are producing. So the CSCs are doing fine. So I implore you, please, this planting season, as you go to produce your cassava and the other crops, please insist on a quality certified seeds that have been certified by NASC, National Seed Council of Nigeria, so that we scale out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. So next I go to Chika. So Chika, just the same question. What's your own role of your organization, Umudike Seeds, in terms of bringing the business side of things and ensuring farmers have access to quality seeds?
Good morning, everybody. Just like you've already said, it's also important I also let us know what Umudike Seed is all about. You see, Umudike Seed is a spin-off of the National Root Crop Research Institute, the commercialized arm of the institute. And it's also important for us to note that Umudike Seed is actually playing a very unique role by partnering with the institute, in the sense that the institute specializes in making research on new varieties. Now, just like what Dr. Asamoah has said, it is very important that we leverage on empowering the stakeholders, partners, farmers, processors on the actual need to use this certified seed. And how do we do that? Is by market access, enhancing food security, empowering farmers, and creating varieties that are resilient to climate change, and improved varieties, ensuring that the productions are intact. Okay? And then when you talk of market access, it's not something Umudike Seed can do alone. We also try to bring the processors. The processors are the ones that will actually process these things. They will get it from the farmers and ensure that at last it gets to the end users. And then when you talk of enhancing food security, you also need to let them know the essence of actually producing that particular variety, utilizing it. You can tell them that, okay, you need to produce yellow roots because of the presence of vitamin A that is contained in that particular variety. It's also important you let them know, okay, if you want to do fufu, you want to do gari, go for TME 490 or Game Changer. So that is what I can say about food security. Then when you talk of empowering farmers, there is need for these farmers to know these things work. I like what Mr. Chinedu said. You know, people have this notion that it has not been working. So, but there is need to let them know it is working. There was a workshop that was conducted sometime last year where one of the CSC said the first 1 million he made was by the virtue of seed entrepreneur business. So we need to let them know that this thing is achievable. It can be done. And then the next one is resilience in climate change. We need to produce varieties that can be resistant to pests and diseases, that can be able to adapt to the climatic condition of what that particular variety fits into. Take for instance, we have I overheard someone saying something about Game Changer. Like Game Changer is prone to some particular disease, although we are yet to verify that. But you see, if we can ascertain that that kind of variety is free from such kind of diseases, okay, then we can be able to say, okay, this kind of variety, this is where it fits in. It can fit in this particular side of the location or so. And then lastly is on the improved varieties. We need to also, I know we cannot do it alone, but I trust and I believe that if everybody can come in partnership to make these things, to multiply these things, like what Dr. Asamoah said. He said we have a lot of CSCs. So I believe that if everyone can take this thing serious, then the problem or the challenge we have will be solved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chika. Thanks. Yeah. So if I hear from you, Chika, you're making millionaires because you said some people said the first million they made. So I just, to leverage on that, to ask you is that I'm sure there are people who want to be millionaires here too. In what states are you operating? How can people partner with you?
Currently, we are in Abia State. Though we do not have physical structures in some other parts of our country, like Akwa Ibom, Abakaliki, Benue, Delta, and Imo States. We do not have physical structures there, but our fields are located in these states. So that notwithstanding, we are trying to make efforts to see that these seeds get to everyone. We make it close to the demands where they come. Like someone may ask you for variety, a particular variety. It must not necessarily be in these 6 states. But if you have a demand from Enugu, for instance, you find out that Ebonyi is close to that place. Also, we are not limited to just these 6 states. We're also trying to meet demands by also collaborating with other partners far away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chika. So just to also add to the point that Chika is making about the relationship between Nrcri and Umudike Seeds. Even though Umudike Seed is located within Nrcri, Umudike Seed is expected to be independent business organization that has their own board and is run completely as a business. They will commercialize the intervention from National Root Crop Research Institute. So just to add to that point. So Dr. Hinke, I'll come back to you now. The question is on climate change. We've discussed about issues of climate change, throughout yesterday, starting from the presentation by Dr. Ken Nadozie, which made it very clear. Diversity is important. As we are breeding for improved varieties, how do we also try to ensure that we keep our local diversity of the crops that have been there before in the past? So back to you, sir.
Okay, so climate change, interestingly, now has different dimensions and mean different things as you move from one place to the other. But I will talk from a breeding research institute perspective. Our concept is to see any variety we are coming up with, that they are stable across locations and over time. I know one of the questions that came up during the presentation from Cocoyam on taro yesterday was, the pathogen you are trying to mitigate, how are you sure that it has not changed between last year and now? And that suggests what people believe on this type of changes. But let me bring it close to you. The keynote speaker dwelled richly on genetic resources. No matter how strong a breeder is, you can only do much within the availability of gene pool that is accessible to you. So what we try to do is that we have characterized Nigerian and African cassava land races, for example, and we know their strengths and weaknesses. And so we are partnering with some of our collaborators from Brazil and Colombia. Latin America, South America is the center of diversity for cassava. So we bring in sources of genes that we do not have into our breeding program. And by so doing, we are now working on varieties that are resistant to drought. We have our trial site in Kano, Mijimbri, and Jigawa State, where we do some dry season phenotyping. So we, even though you may say that a desert encroachment has not really been magnificent in Nigeria, but we are already preparing for that. So we work on that. Then another thing is the issue of disease resistance. For example, there's a disease that is not available in Nigeria, which are not available in West Africa, and we are grateful to God for that. But it's ravaging cassava in the East Africa, and we don't want to fold our hands and wait until it comes here and hit us like Ebola before we start running around. So in the meantime, we are doing what we call preemptive breeding. How do you go ahead and breed for what you don't have? So we partner with our collaborators from Uganda, where they have this disease. So we develop the crosses in Nigeria, and then we do the phenotyping in Uganda, and we do the genotyping in Australia, and we are looking for the genes, the parents that have this resistance. So we are breeding in absence of the disease, but preparing that in case it comes to West Africa, we have some backup material that can withstand it. So we are already working and trying to prepare for anything that can come up. But you know, when you say climate change, you don't know what it will change to. So you prepare for what based on the little information you have. But so the best effort, apart from the specific ones I've mentioned, is to make sure that you have a broad gene base, gene pool from which you can make your crosses from. And we are doing that here. And of course, I'm expecting that before the end of this meeting, we may hear some executive pronouncement in the area of gene bank and all the rest. So the ED just walked in, and I think many people have been, but I trust you. You will hear some executive pronouncement in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yinka. And we look forward to hearing the pronouncement from the ED. So also, Chika, for you, I hear Kanu, so you should be thinking, as Umudike NRCI moves, you have to also catch up. So, Dr. Smuga, I just want to ask you to talk about some successful case studies of CSEs that have, that's something that's surprising to you based on what they've done and how they've made money and, their outlook of what the business is like.
Yeah, okay. Examples of CSEs, that's the cassava seed entrepreneurs. We put in place mid-sized cassava seed entrepreneurs in these states. I mentioned 4 states in the south, east, and south. We also have in Kogi and the Benue states, as well as the Ifa state. So these mid-sized cassava seed entrepreneurs are supposed to get this foundation seed, and then farmers will now assess certified seed from them. So they don't need to come all the way to Nrcri or IITA. So, and these guys, this is a success story. And also, we have the Association of Cassava Seed Entrepreneurs of Nigeria. In fact, a week ago, on Thursday, I was in Oyo State to see what the APSON is doing, the Oyo State Association, because we are trying to integrate them. That is under the umbrella of ASEN, Association of Cassava Seed Entrepreneurs, so that all the states are integrated. In fact, we are planning a national summit. A summit can be centralized in Abuja, or we can decentralize them according to the zones. So these guys, they are doing well. They are doing well. The members of the cooperatives, they are, in fact, at a meeting, they will generate up to 500,000 naira. And from here, they'll be giving soft, credit to their members. So those guys are doing well. And also, our growers have been put in place who are equally given these seeds to produce. In Akwa Ibom State, success story. Somebody, their chairman in Akwa Ibom State, has even built a house from a cassava. We call it a cassava house. If you go to Akwa Ibom State, you will see it, very mighty structure. Prince Ekanem, it is a cassava house. So I've mentioned about the if I youths, those guys, those youths are making it now. You know, now we must also facilitate, you know, the sustainability of this model by market day promos, demo farms to other farmers. We are trying to reach others not yet reached, so that this quality seed will diffuse into the system. So well, the association is doing a lot in this respect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Asmuga. So Chika, the last question, before I throw it open to the audience, you know, one of the things that we've said about the breeding, to improve breeding, is that the breeders need to get feedback from the market, basically. So how is your organization, Umudike Seed, how can they help in the collaboration with farmers, cassava seed entrepreneurs, to bring feedback to the research institute on what the market is demanding?
Thank you, sir. Well, the breeder system they are doing well, but I think if we can, actually looking at the present challenge we have, they can kind of create varieties that are heat tolerant, resilient to climate change. They are doing well in terms of pests and diseases, but I think more effort needs to be done. Then also in terms of flood and drought tolerance too, that is also necessary. And therefore salinity tolerance too, that is also necessary. I think if all these issues are addressed, it will be able to help us also to give them proper feedback. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just to add to what Shika did, because what they are doing is they reach out to the communities, and when you go to the communities and you are gathering about 100 farmers, you are going to have different opinion, which is okay. So one thing we do in addition to what she mentioned is what we call the DCT. It is called Demand Creation Trial, where we deliberately push these newly released varieties to processing factories. We work with them, we go to their company, give us a portion of your land, your production field, we plant it, and we maintain it with them. At the end of the season, they process it into different products, and from there, they make up their mind, oh, this is good for my fufu preparation, this is good for my flour preparation. So we now arrange the farmers, the CSCs around them to produce this like cluster farmers. So we are doing that with a processing factory in Ebonyi, Enugu, Anambra, and Abia State already. And it has been working because you give them 5 varieties, they pick that, oh, this is giving me best starch yield, this is what I want. And then the CSCs around them, you now give them that variety to produce. And in that case, that demand for that particular variety is high there. So we also get feedback from them, which we integrate into our breeding objectives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think I didn't warn at the beginning, but I think it's been a great discussion. I've asked my questions and I'm done. So I want to throw it open to the audience. Do you have any questions directed to any of the panelists that you would like to be addressed?
Thank you very much. I think my question may not be directly directed to the panelists, but because they were discussing part of the presentation of Professor Happiness Oselebe, and there were some thoughts that came to my mind pondering through the presentation, particularly looking at the breeding pipeline for, I think it's yam, I think he was talking of 6 to 8 years, 8 years for the release of a material. And also knowing the long gestation period for root and tuber crops. So although I had a private discussion with my friend Dr. Kogbani, and thinking of how, because one of the impediments of implementing speed breeding in developing countries is infrastructure. But now, given, you see, as we moved around, a very beautiful place, and then with infrastructure in place, how do we explore the opportunities for speed breeding in order to cut down on the breeding cycle for root and tuber crops? Even taking a typical example like cassava, even if we are not talking of yam, by just manipulating the environmental conditions, and then we can couple this with any of the biotech approaches to see how this can help to facilitate. So that's what I wanted to find out. Is there a possibility of exploring the opportunities that are presented by speed breeding to, to enhance the breeding of root and tuber crops at NCRI? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Well, speed breeding, if I understand you very well, is shortening the breeding cycle. And we are already doing that in cassava. We are now, but we didn't even manipulate the environment. What we are doing is genomic prediction, where from the crosses, the seed you generate, we do genotyping and sequencing, and then we do prediction of the best parents, and we move them straight to the crossing block. Now, this is part of the strategy used in the latest release of cassava varieties in Nigeria. Interesting, in NRCRI, we come down to 5 years cycle, 4-5 years, but ITA is trying to implement 2-3 years cycle, and so Uganda is doing 4-5 years like us, and we are still assessing. So we've been able to cut it from 7-8 years to 4-5, and IIT is trying to bring it to 2-3 years. So it's already implemented, and then under the RTB breeding, we are now trying to do the same thing for both cassava and yam. So we are on it already. Thank you.
Okay, final question. Sorry. Okay, 2 questions.
Thank you very much. My question, Dr. Onyeka, is that you say your breeding is demand-driven. Okay. If it's demand-driven and you people bred yellow root cassava, and you know all the problems with it, when you want to process locally, using local methods, you spread in the sun, the carotene will disappear by the time you finish drying it and all the rest of them. And now, if it's demand-driven, why is it that our people are not using it? Go to the market, see all those...
see where we are. What strategies do you have on ground to ensure sustainability so that not if you don't bring the approved variety, the other ones have gone. They harvest, they throw away, and then wait for you. You see, that's the problem we have with funded projects. When the donors withdraw, there's no sustainability. And then to Chika, you said seed company. Is it part of Nrcri or another company? Is it part of the organization? And then if it is, how are you relating with the government and FRCs? Because they're always interested in generating income. You come and pay to them for them to use instead of using that company to grow. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I will take the last question, sir. I'm the director supervising that company, so I'm in charge of the administrative decisions in that company. So Umudike Seed is a spin-off company of NRCRI. It is registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission as limited by guarantee company. Why is it not limited liability company? Limited by guarantee gives it the opportunity to operate like an NGO. So it's like an innovation center. It has an independent board. As of today, the executive director of NRCRI is the pro-time chairman of the board, but other board members are non-government agents. They are top people in different sectors of private. Some are even outside Nigeria, and they are consulting. They are playing supervisory role from the board. So the company is a private entity owned by NRCRI, quite all right, but it is a private in the sense of administration, so that the leadership of NRCRI is not interfering with it. So it's a limited by agent. He has his own account and is independent. And I think we have the approval from Abuja to do that, and we are trying to even expand it to some other areas of our interest. Now, on the issue of breeding, when we say demand-driven, you identify a need and you breed to address that need. What was the need that gave birth to breeding for yellow root? It was nutrition, vitamin A deficiency. So the question is, an average person consumes cassava. Children that from poor homes may not have access to other food, but they have access to cassava. So what if we put things that can enhance vitamin A in cassava? That's the concept. Now, listen to me very well. Listen to me very well. The variety was not designed to replace white root. It was a niche that you were addressing, and that niche is there. The fact that people processing cassava are processing white doesn't mean that they are not processing it. The demand for yellow root stem is still high. The processing factories are using it. We didn't design it to come and replace white root. That will be a misconception. So the fact both of them will run together, some people will still prefer white root, which is okay. But the yellow root was designed to meet a specific need, which is nutrition, and that is being addressed. If you come up with a variety that have resistance for a disease tomorrow, that variety will not be appealing to where the disease is not available. So we should understand that. Then there's something called genetic drag. As you improve for one trait through conventional breeding, you may inadvertently reduce the strength of one trait. And what do? You are focusing. So at that point, people that adopt your first product, WKO is deficient in this. You go back to the drawing board and see how you can improve for that. So research is not magic where you just put this and it's standing there. But I don't want to agree with the concept that yellow root is not adopted. Go and do a survey. Go out there and ask for the demand for yellow root stems is still high in the niche. Thank you very much.
Okay, on the issue of sustainability, of course, when we are running this project, there must be an exit strategy. We cannot be there indefinitely. So these cassava seed entrepreneurs are being backstopped. I'm aware that the project Basic 2 is still backstopping the CSEs in terms of training, market the promos, and then other things. And our partner in the North, CROS, is also doing the same thing. So the purpose is to make sure that these CSEs stand. And of course, most of the time you talk about finance. The farmers and the CSEs will talk about finance. Thank God that the Basic 2, under the able leadership of the component lead, component 3, Dr. Tokula is here. He knows how far we went with the CBN. And the issue is still on. What is important is collateral. And also, Sterling Bank is doing something in the West to interface with the CSEs. And they are giving them, credit. So it's important. ICSAN, Industrial Cassava Stakeholders Association of Nigeria. I hope some of us here belong to ICSAN. It's important. They're also interfacing with the FCMB. And most importantly, the recent one, the National Agricultural Growth Scheme for the cassava, the Oga is here. Incidentally, our executive director is in charge of the cassava component. And recently, they were compiling lists list of all the CSCs and farmers. And I remember I had to inform all the states. In fact, personally, I submitted the list of Cross River states. Those trained CSEs, they have submitted their data with the account number. We don't know the amount that they will be given. So we're doing everything possible to ensure that this structure we put in place cannot fade out. So we want them to sustain the tempo. And we are still scaling. You know, the CSC model, it's not even in Nigeria here. We have it in Tanzania. They are doing well. So we are trying everything possible to ensure that the CSC system, the cassava seed entrepreneurs, is sustained. Market information, this is very important. I would like us, the cassava seed entrepreneurs and farmers, to please key into the seed tracker. Seed tracker, www.seedtracker.org. Key into it, you get information. In fact, it's there that the CSCs upload information about themselves. What they are doing in the farm, areas of a surplus for cassava, areas of a deficit throughout the country. So when you key into it, you get all the information you want so that you don't complain that you don't have sale. You don't have people coming to buy your stem. Just key into it and go into, you will see people looking for roots, looking for stems. Yeah. So it's important. Yes. So we want to sustain this. We put in place this structure, and we have to make sure it is sustained. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my wonderful panelists. Just to, yeah, a round of applause for them, please. Thank you. Just to summarize and in closing, I think not to answer the question because it's been answered by Dr. Onyeka correctly, but this is just the beginning of, I know some people say we've been in on it for many years. The issue around awareness campaign, what we want to do is to ensure that the breeding is separated from the market. Things around, Dr. Smuga mentioned market storming, social media campaign, going to the farmers to create awareness. We want it to be driven by the business side of the people. While the research will take information from this business side to then make their informed decision in what they need to research and produce. So I would like to stop there and thank you all for being a wonderful audience, and back to our moderator. Thank you, everybody.
Can we please put our hands together for this wonderful panel? They've really done justice to this, the lead paper of yesterday and other issues that have been raised here. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we want to move on to the next program, having effectively completed our schedule for yesterday. And so now we want to call on the chairman for this session, and that is Professor Emmanuel Nzebula. Please to the high table. Can we clap for Professor Nzebula? The rapporteurs for this session is Dr. Jane Wegbe and Dr. Ivan Wokocha. Please join. Okay, Professor, you can sit. Yeah, so while the rapporteurs move up there. Yes, we'll be having presentations that will be done by the Cassava Transformation Project, and then Global Biotechnology Potato Partnership will also be presenting. And so we want to welcome Dr. Charles Amadi. Please can we clap for him? Please, sir. Okay. Dr. Amadi will be telling us all that has been happening in the Global Biotechnology Potato Partnership. Also, we want to welcome Dr. Mrs. Ihuomo Ukwono. Please can we clap for her, the coordinator of cassava, of biotechnology program. Ladies and gentlemen, I know your hands are not busy. Clap for Dr. Ihuomo Ukwono. Great. So after the presentations, we will call on the panelists to handle the presentation that they are going to make right away. And so, want to open the presentation now with you, ma. Dr. Ihuomo Ukwono, please come up for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Chairman, please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. Okay, so I'm going to be telling us about the progress and prospects of cassava transformation in Nrcri. So the outline will look at rationale for cassava transformation, the institutional capacity we have, and the various interventions that we have done in cassava transformation. So the rationale, why are we doing this? Great improvements have been made through conventional breeding. But the truth is that there are still lack of genetic variation for certain traits, such as mineral traits within cassava germplasm, which makes breeding challenging. And also, there are so many things that we still need to understand about the metabolic processes that are associated with physiological process in cassava that will aid in the use of modern biotechnology tools in improving cassava. And then it is essential for gene studies and validation. Yesterday we talked about so many SNPs markers that have been identified. How do we validate those genes? And one of the processes is using genetic transformation. So institutional capacity, very briefly. So Nrcri have been doing CFTs and modern biotechnology activities right from 2014 with our ED started it in the institute, and yearly and bi-yearly we've always updated our facilities and have it checked by the National Biosafety Management Agency. Okay, so we have the molecular biology lab that is used for gene manipulations, for cloning, and for transgenic analysis. Then we have the genetic modification facility where you actually do the transformation and regeneration of plantlet after transformation. And then next we have the biosafety level 2 screen house where you do weaning and acclimatization of the materials before they go to the field. And then next we have confined field trials according to stipulated regulation for evaluation of these materials in the field. Now coming to achievements and current interventions. So the first thing that we did was to transfer the technology for cassava transformation from the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center to Nrcri. So the institute had an opportunity to train about 5 or 4 scientists at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center on cassava transformation. And on returning, we were able to transfer this technology to Nrcri. So, then we developed genetic transformation platform for farmer-preferred cassava varieties. I want to say that transformation is genotype dependent, and it's not every cultivar that responds to transformation in the lab. So what is being used worldwide is a cultivar that is called 60444. And that cultivar is of no use to farmers. You can use it for product development, but it is so easy to transfer. And when I said we transferred technology, what we actually transferred was transformation of that model cultivar that is called 60444. So the next line of action was to begin to develop protocols for the transformation of our farmer-preferred cultivars, because that is what exactly that you're going to use for product development that will go to farmers. So those are the processes, and we've been able to establish protocols using marker genes. These are marker genes. It's not for food. It's something that helps you to say this is transgenic or this is not transgenic. Okay, so next, another thing we're doing is that we are screening a lot of land races for regenerational potential. If you look at globally, people doing cassava transformation, it is a bottleneck actually to develop a product. So having seen that that is a problem, so we decided to screen a lot of our materials. We pass them through what we call the, target tissue production to regeneration, to have them, to have them documented. If somebody anywhere in the world says, I need to do cassava transformation, which variety can we use? We can go back to our archive and tell them you can use this variety or not. So this is sponsored by the Nrcri project. Okay, so another thing we're doing, we are trying to explore alternative target tissues. If you look at sweet potato transformation, you look at potato transformation, very easy. Within 3 months, they have regenerated materials. But for cassava, you are waiting for 1 year, you're waiting for 2 years before you have your regenerants. But so we are trying to look at, can we use alternative explants apart from what is being used? So this is also going on. And other laboratories in the world are also doing this, trying to see if we can have this developed. Okay, so another thing we're doing is metabolic engineering of cassava for improved yield and starch content. This is done in collaboration with FAU, and it's under the CAS project. So what is being done is that we're studying the metabolic process of cassava to know what are the pathways that are responsible for starch accumulation in the roots. We call it cassava source sink. How can you direct what is happening in the source to the sink to increase yield and starch content? So our role in this project is to use the constructs, the recombined DNA molecule that have been developed by FAU, and put it into our own farmer-preferred cultivars so that we can develop cassava that has high yielding and high starch content. Okay, so the next thing we're doing is field evaluation for virus-resistant cassava with elevated levels of iron and zinc. Dr. Onyeka made mention of CBSD. One of the preemptive measures that we're doing is to develop cassava that is already resistant to cassava brown streak disease. So to this material, first of all, we used a CMD resistant material, and then we stacked in a construct, a recombined DNA molecule that has CBSD resistant as well as iron and zinc transport gene. So we put them into cassava and recovered so many lines. So these lines have gone through two trials. We have done trait selection trials, and from the screen you can see. Please, can you go back? So from the screen you can see iron and zinc accumulation. We're able to beat our benchmark. Our benchmark was supposed to be 40 ppm, but we're able to beat our benchmark in most of the clones that we have evaluated. So what we're doing right now is to do yield evaluation trial, and that is going on in our CFT at this moment, and it's happening both at Umudike and at Otobi. At the end of this trial, we'll be able to identify candidate events that we will advance for regulatory field trial, and eventually, by the grace of God, in the next 3 years, we should be able to release these materials for Nigeria. So another thing that we're doing is editing a particular gene that is called ME-Sweet10A gene for resistance to cassava bacteria blight disease. So this disease is a problem. It's a problem because it is happening, but we are not really finding donors to help us solve the problem. So when it hits your field, it's a big problem. So we're using the new technology that is called gene editing tool, CRISPR-Cas9, to target a gene that we have identified to be a susceptibility gene. the gene that is helping the bacteria to thrive and cause disease. So the target is to knock out that gene. When we knock out that gene, we would thereby making the cassava resistant to cassava bacterial blight. I want to say that this work was done I did this work in the United States and then came back to Nigeria to continue with this work, and we got a little grant from Bayer to continue this work, and we're in the process of in the process. So acknowledgement, I want to acknowledge the Vaca Plus project, the ENSA project, the CAS project, the Bayer project, and then our major collaborators, the Donald Danforth Plant Science Centers and FAU. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Madam, for the brilliant. Sorry, we will continue with the second presentation. After that, we take a round of questions. Thank you.
I want to bring on Dr. Charles Amadi for his own presentation. Can we put our hands together for Dr. Charles Amadi?
Thank you so much. The chairman, my ED and distinguished guests, and my fellow researchers. Please, I want to make this presentation on the multi-locational evaluation of biotech potatoes resistant to lead blight. We know, like we saw last year, lead blight is a persistent problem in Nigeria, and it is the most destructive disease of potato. And it took conventional breeding almost 40 years to be able to transfer resistance naturally from wild relatives into cultivated potatoes. So, but with biotech potatoes, it took just 3 to 4 years to get this done. And what I want to share with us is actually the field evaluation of these biotech potatoes. I will follow the guidelines that we've listed there. Now, a little about the development, because whenever we talk of biotech, transgenic, people get jittery. But so we need to kind of clear some backgrounds. Now, biotech potatoes contains genes that have been copied from wild relatives. Those wild relatives are Solanum venturi, Solanum bulbocastum, and Solanum mochiquens. They are all wild relatives of potato. They are resistant to lead blight. The genes that make them resistant to lead blight were copied and then stacked and then transferred to farmer-preferred varieties of potatoes. So these farmer-preferred varieties of potatoes with these genes now are what we call biotech potatoes. Last year, we showed this because we did this in 2022, and we showed clearly that those resistant genes in biotech potatoes were effective in protecting potato against lead blight. So we showed this as our result. You could see empty plots and the plots with potatoes. The empty plots were the non-transformed potatoes, while the plots that are green are the plots with the biotech potatoes. So, buoyed by the success we got in 2022, in 2023, we received permits from MBA to go multi-locational. And therefore, we established confined field trials at Kusuku in Mambila and Bokos also in Jos Plateau. Bokos is the local government with the highest potato production. So these CFTs were established. We evaluated 8 events and 5 near isogenic lines, and then 2 checks. From Diamond, we had 2 events. From Shangi, we had 2 events. And from Victoria, we had 2 events. So that's why we had 8 events. So now I will briefly share the results that we obtained. Because the major target is late blight. We want to see whether they remained late blight resistant. So I'll be focusing mostly on results from late blight severity. We collected the data, weekly, and then looking at the first slide there, you will see, I hope it is clear enough, you will see that both at Kuru, at Bokos, at Mambila, none of the events are those lines with a dot. Once you see dot, something that represents an event. Like you have Disre is the non-transformed one. Disre dot 52 is the transformed. You have Tigoni and then Tigoni dot. So all those ones with dots are the events. And you will notice that they had no late blight at all. They were immune. You'll be wondering why. What happens is that the genes that have been stacked in them gives the plant an early warning of infection. So once that pathogen drops on the leaf to begin to initiate infection, the plant is informed and it triggers the natural resistance against that pathogen and strikes it off immediately. Once you identify a disease early, you can quickly clear it off. That's actually what the genes introduced into biotech potatoes are doing. Then that resistance to late blight transferred into the yield because they were resistant. They yielded by an average of 300% higher than their non-transformed or near isogenic lines. That's what we have shown across all the locations. But you will notice, go back, you will notice one of our newly released varieties, Kyo. I hope that is clear enough. That variety you will see is still standing strong because it has field resistance to late blight. You can move on now. Then we had plots where we applied fungicides. So in those plots, both the non-transformed and the transformed lines had protection through the use of fungicides. So they all developed to their full potentials. And you will notice that from the result now, those drastic yield disparity between the biotech potatoes and the non-transformed line disappears. What that is showing you is that the transformation did not lead to any yield loss. So the fact that some genes have been added there did not detract from the natural yielding ability of the genotypes that were transformed. And that is actually what I showed here. This is the pooled mean across all the locations. You see the results clearly. The disparity in yield almost disappeared, apart from 1 or 2 events. Next. Yeah, we had to show farmers the results at the vegetative stage so that they can see the varieties that were killed and then the events that remained standing. So we call that Greenfield Day. We did that at Bokos. Last year it was at Kuru, and then this time at Bokos. So we also did what we call the socioeconomic expert elicitation workshop. This was anchored by a scientist from SIP Kenya. And during that workshop, one thing became evident, that we do not keep proper data records. Because at that workshop, people from the Bureau of Statistics, every important player in the value chain were gathered. And what were we looking for? Statistics, data. Only FAO data was what was readily available. So going forward, there's a dire need to do what? To keep data in the country. And we are also multiplying seed within the screen house we have inside the CFT. So that is just to enable us to have seats to continue the evaluation. We also had manpower and facility upgrade. We had scientists trained for local transformation of a potato. And I think as we are gathering the facilities, we've gotten the gel documentation imager, we are going for a mini PCR, and a few other basic things needed to do the transformation locally. Once we're able to do that, Kaya is ready to go, and then we can do transformation of the second generation biotech potatoes locally here in Nigeria, because all these ones we are using now were transformed outside in US and in Kenya. Yes, we also shared the results we are getting. You know, when you have a good result, you are eager and proud to share it. We went to Morocco at the African Plant Breeders Conference to share that result. So going forward, we are going to do the second year multi-locational evaluation. The permit we have from MBMA will cover that. Then we are also going to do nutrient compositional analysis, trying to look at whether there are some strange proteins within the potatoes. And then we are going to transform one of the latest released varieties, Unica. We're going to transform it locally. There was a meeting from where that variety was nominated. And then we'll continue to build local capacity, and we are going to improve visibility. This time, there's an animated video coming up from MSU to share this whole idea of biotech potatoes. And the AATF also are very strong on that, trying to communicate what we are doing to the outside world. If you are conversant with the news, a lot of news was sent out there conveying the success of our first year multi-locational trial. And that's the consortium that are involved, multinational and multi-sectoral. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Doctor, for that wonderful presentation. We have a full house again, except for a few people in the front seat that were here yesterday but not here today. But that goes to strengthen our capacity to support National Root Crop Research Institute to continue to do what they're doing. We have had two presentations, two wonderful presentations for two different researchers, top scientists in their capacities, and they have presented to us what they have been doing. Why we have gathered, I believe strongly, why the Institute has brought many of us from different backgrounds to this point is to add value to what the Institute is doing. And that being the case, the only way we can drive it is by interrogating what they're doing. Interrogate it, provide other avenues. We listened to the keynote speaker yesterday, where he mentioned at the beginning of his presentation that it is time we just don't think out of the box. Let us cast the box away and have an open ventilation of ideas. That is what we are being invited to do now. And I believe the only way we can help the researchers in what they're doing is to ask vital questions. Because of time constraint, we are being limited to ask only 4 questions. But because of exigencies, I will plead with all of us. If anybody has any question, anything burning that you feel that needs to be answered, please put it down on a piece of paper, and one of the facilitators will go around to collect the piece of paper. We will still attend to them as we go along. So I will open up the floor for questions. Thank you, our presenters. Let me welcome you back. So if you have any question to ask, please, I've seen one hand, too. We will be gender sensitive, very gender sensitive. We have four people to ask questions. So we have three male. So any female hand, please. Yes, I've seen a female hand. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the hand there.
Thank you very much. Let me start by commending the 2 speakers. They've done excellently well. But my question goes to Dr. Charles Amadi. There is, in the way forward, you indicated that there will be local transformation of unique variety. Please, what informed the choice of this variety for transformation? Is it because it is a farmer preferred variety, or that it is very easy to transform? And then how transformable are most potato genotypes? How transformable? What is the, anyway, you understand the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amadi, for a good presentation. I recall when I was still in office, there was a marching order by the Minister for Agriculture because of the devastating effect of the late blight in Plateau State. I led the team, and you were in that team. And we did a good job. We went around and presented a report to the governor of Plateau State. Now, your work is actually addressing the issue. Now, the gene you transformed, this gene is to farmer preferred varieties. When we went to the field, the late blight was attacking almost all the varieties. My question is, what of the other varieties that are not preferred? Wouldn't they get this thing and transfer to the others? So what is the situation on ground now in Plateau State? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A very good work from Okwono. You did screening of some cassava varieties for resistance to cassava bacterial blight. I wish to ask if cassava mosaic disease and some cassava pests like cassava green mite are on the decline. I did see that in their work. Thank you.
I think plus CJ also.
I want to thank you both for the very brilliant presentations. My little worry is the potato work is focusing mainly on the Irish potato. We still have issues with local potato, especially the fact that it does not store long. I don't know if there are plans by your program to also address the issue of quick spoilage. what are you doing? Is there some transformation that can give it a better shelf life? Because that's what is grown more in the South than the Irish potato. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will allow the presenters to answer the questions. Please be brief as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the questions. Beginning from that from Professor Ubi. What informed the nomination of Unica? We had a meeting with farmers, and then within them, they were shown the varieties. They selected Nicola, which is one of the varieties that have been in Jos for donkey years. And then they selected Unica because Unica is multi-purpose, is amenable to different kinds of usage. So perhaps that may have informed why they chose it. And it's also very high yielding. And so if we can add late blight resistance to it, it will be a game changer. Maybe that's why they selected it. And you also asked about amenability to transformation among the potato varieties. Yes, I think there is a great variability. Some are more amenable to the others. But what they did with this first generation transformation is that they went for varieties that are in the public domain and varieties where they already have what they need to transform. So they wouldn't have to go through so many legalities. So I think that's why they chose these ones that but now, coming down home now, we are now, since we now can do the transformation locally, we can begin to kind of screen all our local materials and then see which ones we can easily transform and then add this late blight resistance. And in fact, the second generation will have not just late blight, there's plan to add virus resistance and bacterial wilt resistance. And that will go to reduce the spoilage Prof was asking about. If we can, because a lot of the rotten we have during storage is a result of latent bacterial infection. So if they can have that resistance to bacterial wilt also, they'll be able to store more when we keep them. So that will give them a longer shelf life. Then as for the problem in Jos, the late blight problem, we are actually addressing them. You remember that we gave them 3 plans of action: short term, medium term, and long term. Short term, we said they should spray. We recommended some fungicides for them to use and how to use that. Then medium term, we said we are going to release some moderately resistant varieties, that varieties with field or horizontal resistance. So we have done that with the 4 varieties we released last year. So we told them that this one, biotech potatoes, will be the sucker punch, and it will be the long-term control. And all things being equal, at the end of this year, we'll complete the second year multi-locational trial, and then we'll request for permission for environmental release, and then with that we can go on farm. So add or subtract by 2025, we should be able to release the first set of biotech potatoes, and that will be like ending that perennial reoccurrence of late blights on the plateau. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir, if I understood your question very well, you said that we're not addressing CGM, and I can't remember the other one. Is that what your question is? That we're not addressing those problems? Okay, so the point here is that our interest at this moment is cassava bacteria blight because of the impact. We did a trial once and we were not able to get anything from that trial because of the impact of CBB. And the truth is that conventionally, there is no solution for CBB. And then a lot of work has been done to understand the pathogenicity of cassava bacteria blight. So with the wealth of information that we have on this, we're able to identify the gene that we can target, and then we begin to work on this. And the truth about genome editing is that before you can actually do anything on any problem, you need to understand what genes are involved and what genes can I target. So at this point in time, our target is cassava bacteria blight. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to have the privilege of making a few comments or questions. Yesterday, I do remember a question was posed or a comment was made that cassava appears to be dominating other products, something like yam, in the research activities we have here in National Root Crop Research Institute. And again, today, while Dr. Ihoma was making her presentation, I don't think I remembered hearing anything on yam. Well, I think these are projects that have to do with partnership. They are projects funded by different partners, I guess. I want us to understand or realize that there is importance of also maintaining our cultural diversity. One of the good things about work on biodiversity is that they work hand in hand with cultural diversity. I will want to say that where it is difficult to get funding, international funding for yam projects, please, I will plead with National Root Crop Research Institute, the ED is not here, that we try to find out how we can look for funds internally to do work and project work in yam. Yam is our crop. Yam is our crop. Cassava, yes, cassava is good, but part of food security is also trying to maintain our cultural settings, which is yam. Please, I will appeal, let us not set aside yam. I don't know whether it's because Dr. Ihon, they say yam is a man's crop and cassava is a female crop. I don't know why that is why she has devoted her time on cassava. But please, if that is the case, let us get a male co-assistant to work on yam products. And I will think that there is also need for us to do some level of prioritization. A lot of things are in the basket, but we should also look at how to prioritize our work to lay emphasis to those that are. And again, the EA did mention about deliverables, that the Minister of Agriculture was given a mandate to say by the presidency, this is what you deliver. That should also be part of what should guide our prioritization of our work. Thank you. I do not have more time, please. Please, I will attend to that question. There's another session coming up. I will allow you to answer that question. At this moment, may I thank our rapporteurs I have here.
Mr. Chair, they will still be there with you, sir. They are serving you all through this section.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, we want to move over to the next panel section, and the presenters will be part of that panel. So please, don't be in a hurry to go back to the audience. Yes, all that have been presented centered on the role of biotechnology in crop improvement, addressing food security, economic development, and public perception and engagement. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very solid team to dissect further these issues. And the moderator for this panel section is Dr. T.J. Onyeka, the Director of Biotechnology and Product Development Program, National Root Crop Research Institute, and the PI Basic 2 project. Please, can we celebrate him again? Yeah. Dr. Charles Amadi is already seated, the Director, Tuber Crop Research, National Root Crop Research Institute, Mudike. We also have seated already Dr. Ihoma Ukwono, the Coordinator of Biotechnology Program of this institute. We also want to welcome the DG of MBMA, Dr. Agnes Yemisi. She is part of this very panel. Can we celebrate her? We want to also bring to this panel Professor Ifoma I.E.J., the Director of Biotechnology Center for Moayu Mudike. Yes, I want to hand over. Yes. Okay. Then one of the panel members is also Professor Benjamin Ubi, Ebonyi State University, Abakaliki. He has been very active, engaging in almost all the presentations. Can we celebrate him? Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. We are all welcome to this section. I've just told the Director of PME will make it brief because I feel the last two presentations